Hello everyone, and in this class we are going to discuss this new feature that Figma just came out with, and it's called the glass effect. So it is inspired by the new liquid glass that Apple just introduced, and I feel like there's a lot of fun stuff that you can do with the glass effect. So I wanted to do a class on that, and I want to make it super simple, and this video should be short enough for you to actually go through it and understand everything. So let's start with the basics, okay? So the first thing that you should know at the time of recording this video, you can only apply this glass effect to frames. So you cannot apply it to rectangles or any shapes or anything like that. So be mindful of that when you are actually applying it to different objects. So you can only apply it to frames. Okay, so the first thing that we have here is we have a background with some wiggly lines, and then we have a frame on top of this with different icons. Now, I can just select this frame, come over to my effects, hit this plus, and from here, I now have this new option called glass. And as soon as I toggle this on, you can see that it changed. So let me just undo this and pay attention to when I toggle this on. See how much cleaner and cooler it looks already? But wait, there is more. We can actually change a lot of things here in the settings. Now keep in mind this is in beta, so this might be acting up for some people, so don't worry. But the first thing that we notice here is this. It's called light, and there's a little torch here. So if you toggle this around, or actually move this around, you can see that the light changes, like the direction of the light changes according to where I place the torch. So I can have it completely from the left to the right. I can have it at an angle, which is usually the most popular way of doing this. And then you also have from the top. So you can play around with this and do whatever you want with the style that you're looking for. You can also change the intensity. And then you also have the intensity over here. And you can also change it manually as well. So if I just decrease it, it is going to be less intense compared to when I crank it up, obviously, to 100. So, I mean, again, you can just play around with this and see what works for you. Then we have refraction, and it is basically, if I turn it all the way down, you see how the background doesn't distort at all? But if I just crank it all the way up, then it really starts distorting, especially around the edges. So refraction is basically the amount of distortion that happens when the object that we're looking at passes through glass. So if I keep it at like maybe 90, we're gonna have a very pronounced effect, as you can see here. Like all the lines are moving a lot. So then we have depth, and that is basically the thickness of the glass. So how thick is your glass? Obviously, the thicker the glass, the more the effect. Then we have dispersion, and this is basically the chromatic aberration that happens if it's all the way up and you zoom in. You can see that there are little colors that start appearing. If I just decrease it, you can't see them, but if I take it up all the way to 100, you can see that these colors, chromatic aberrations, start appearing. So I like this effect, so I'm just going to keep it like this. And then finally we have frost. So frost is basically how frosted your glass effect really is. And you can always change it according to what you want. I like to keep it at a lower value for now. Alright, so basically these are all the settings that we have. Now let's move on to the more advanced stuff. Okay, so we have here an example of a wireframe, and these are all some donuts. There is a little button at the bottom here. So, okay, this button is actually a frame. So let's apply the glass effect to this frame. Okay, so already we have this effect applied to it, but it's still not very legible, and that's a little bit of an issue with this liquid glass style, that making things more visible is a little bit of a challenge for designers. So what can we do here? We can just come here and increase the frost a little bit to maybe 24. Okay, and it's a little bit better now. And then we can also make it more apparent by adding a fill to our button and setting the opacity 24 or 20, excuse me. So with this way, we have a more, more of a, like a pronounced button that, you can actually see that there's a button there at least, as opposed to before. Let's check this out. And if I just move this around, you can see that this is more legible now and it interacts less with the background. Of course, if it's a completely white background, then it's a little bit difficult to see. But now if I make it go like all the way down on the black one, and also on the other pictures, it's a little bit more legible. But this white one is a little bit iffy. But that's a given with the frosted glass effect, and that's something that you just have to work with. Of course, you can make the fill more bold and apparent, and also maybe change the glass effect a little bit more, make the frost a little bit more pronounced, so that even on the white glass it is legible. But that's completely a design choice that you should make for yourself. Okay, and then we have another example here, and I want to show you something really cool. So like, if you notice, these icons, depending on where they are, will change colors a little bit. So if I just keep this here, you can see that part of it is blue and part of it is a little bit yellowish green. So why is that? How can we achieve that? We can see that this icon doesn't really change colors, whereas these do. So let's apply this effect to these icons, shall we? If I hit enter, I can select the colors for these icons. And if you notice here, the opacity is set to 100%. So if I just put it at 60, let's say, it's already, it's not changing colors, but it's interacting more with the background color. So what if I want to do a little bit extra for this? I can come here to appearance and apply this blending mode, and the one that I'm looking for is plus lighter, actually. So as soon as I apply this, and then if I apply this glass effect, it should do these cool things, And let's see. So now if I zoom in, I can see that now it has started to interact with my colors in the back. So this is pretty cool, as now not only does it have this cool glass effect, but it also interacts with the background and changes colors. So now these are a little bit bluish, these are a little bit greenish. If I move this down, oops, sorry. If I move this up, we can see that these are a little bit pinkish and reddish. So this is also a cool thing you can do with icons using the glass effect. And finally, we have this example over here. I want to prototype this, that when I hit on the search bar, this little menu appears, and also I want to add some effect to it so that it is legible. So let's do that. First things first, I want to prototype this. So let's hit Shift E on our keyboard to toggle this on. And I will just select this whole entire frame and just connect it with this one. And I will say on click, navigate to search open. And then I will set it up as a smart animate. And I will select slow and 400 milliseconds. And maybe I can connect it to actually I'll do it from the search bar, because that is the part where I want to start it from. And then the same thing here, if I hit this one, then it comes back to this. And Figma should remember my settings, and yeah, so it looks good. So now let's see if it actually works. So Shift Spacebar. And yes, it is working really well actually. So, but the only problem is I can't really see. So let me just fix that. I will come here and toggle design back on, and I will apply the same glass effect. And as soon as I do that, I can also make it more, if I want it to be more depthy, and increase the frost a little bit. And now everything is so much more legible. So let's test it. It's right here. I apologize that it's a little bit small. I am trying for you to actually not get confused by the things in the background, but let's see. It's right here. And we can see that it works pretty well. Now there's a little bit of a delay because of our animation, but overall it just works. And that is what we're looking for. So basically these were all the features that you should be aware of with the new glass feature that Figma came out with. And it's a pretty cool feature and it's developing still. So let me know how you feel about it in the comments. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.